is. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know you're not supposed to wear glasses when you do live because of the reflections, but if I want to see today, I have to wear glasses. Hope everybody's doing well today. I didn't pin this to the top of the page, so you should be able to find it. Hi, Mary Beth. Good morning, Debbie. Hi, Cheryl. Let's see, make sure I have these listed here. So I thought today we could make a embossing folder card that also has heat embossing on it, just to do a little something different. So I'm going to use, I have a couple different things out, and I also did check on that one folder that I thought was retired, and it wasn't. So you could do this with the, oh my goodness, I should have remembered the name of these. I think it's called Pine Wood Planks. That feels about right. Yep, so you could do it with Pine Wood Planks. This is the first one I'm going to do. You could do subtle, but I don't know how that exactly would work out. I did get out the brick and mortar folder, so I have that one as well. And the folder that I couldn't identify that I thought was retired is actually called the Tasteful Textile 3D. And the one I was thinking it was retired is the one that goes along with, it went with the tropical, I don't think it was called Tropical Chic, Tropical Oasis. They retired the folder, I believe. You could probably also do this with the Woodlands folder. And you could also, this would be a great card. I know I've done this before with the tin tile embossing folder. So those are just a couple things that you could do with it if you wanted to. I'm going to start off with the Pine Wood Planks. And then I think I might also do one with the brick and mortar folder. And I grabbed a couple of dies. I brought the stitched rectangles and I brought the stitched shapes. So I have both of those depending on what we do with it. And then I brought one to do kind of as an all occasion card first, and this is a stamp set I just got. It's called Loyal Leaves, so I haven't even mounted it yet, so you can see it there. It's got a lot of different leaf images in it and a lot of really nice sentiments. I really like this one. I think this is a great one if you're looking for one to send to police, military, firefighters, anyone who's in that. Even you could do heroes for teachers if you wanted to send a teacher card. I think this is a great set though for more of a patriotic kind of thing. Don't worry if you can't spell, that's okay. I'm only partially reading the words at this point, so no worries. Also, I thought you could do a fall card with Beautiful Autumn or Gather Together. So those are just two I grabbed. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to do a generic, not really a seasonal card with this one. And then I also brought over Merry Moose. I think this would look really cool with that, depending on how we layer it. And so you could do that for Christmas. You could just add a sentiment with Christmas Means More. Winter Woods would also look very nice. And then a Merry Hello is a host set. So I know some of these are carryover. So at least some of these stamp sets you guys should have from last year if you bought them, like Winter Woods and Merry Moose were carryovers, and then Christmas Means More and Merry Hello are new. So hopefully you have some of the stuff so you can create some of these as well. So I'm going to pull these two out so I have them. This is going to be my first one, and just making a pile of the other things. In case you missed it the other day, we did make some really cool cards. We made stand-up cards. These are really pretty. We did these on YouTube Thursday. Yesterday was Friday. We did them on YouTube Friday. We made these just with DSP. They're really, really pretty. This one I actually just trimmed a piece of the DSP to make the stopper. So you can see it sits up. It will sit up on somebody's desk just like that. And it also does fold flat. So hopefully you guys caught those. Those were really fun and actually are quite simple. So all of the instructions, if you missed them, they're on my blog at rachthestamper.com. It should be the most recent post. If you go after we finish today, it'll be the most recent post, and then this one will go to the top as well. So thank you guys once again for joining me. I do appreciate you stopping by. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, before I plug the mic, I'm going to grab, because I want Very Vanilla, which I don't usually use vanilla. I don't use it a lot, but I was thinking more of like a cream layer for cards. would be really pretty with what I'm going for, because what we're going to do is we're going to emboss it, and then we're going to actually add some heat embossing, and I'm going to add gold. So I thought gold would look really pretty with what it is I'm trying to shoot for today. I might actually even add another gold layer now that I've looked at it, because I don't have an idea. I just kind of have like a thought in my head of what I want it to look like, and then we will work from there. So I have some vanilla. So I have two. Actually, you know what I'm going to do while I'm at it is I'm going to grab one more piece. So I have thick very vanilla because I do want it to stick. And then we'll kind of just decide what colors we want to go with. I think it might look really nice if we do it on suede. So I'm just going to pull that out so I have it handy. So I have suede, and you could also do it just looking at the Old World folder. That would be a good one to do it with as well. And if you're going to do a Christmas one, I think it would look really nice to have something in a really rich color. And I don't use this terrifically often, but Mary Merlot might be a really nice base. So I'm just going to put those couple handy, and I'm going to grab one more since we're going with like the deep color. I'm going to grab Mossy. So I have Mary Merlot, Mossy Meadow, and Soft Suede. So those are going to be our cards. One other thing you're going to need to have handy, and you may or may not have one of these anymore, but they really do come in handy when you're heat embossing, is some sort of an anti-static powder tool. I know we no longer carry it with Stampin' Up. I'm sure you can get it somewhere. Some people even say you can make your own, but it's just a little bag filled with some sort of magical material that limits the dust. So you're going to need that, or the stray dust, I should say. You're going to need your Versamark pad, and then depending on what color ink you use, we'll just kind of work with that in between. So I'm going to flip you guys over, and then I'm going to hook in the microphone so it's a little bit louder. So bear with me. Hi, Brina. Hope you guys are well. Hey, Jody. Thank you for joining. All right, so I'm going to take you off. So if you get a little sick by motion, just look away. I'll tell you when we're locked in place. All right, let me just move my tripod out of the way. And almost there. Hold on. All right, I'm going to clip in my... Okay, so hopefully that's clear. Let me just readjust these lights now so it's a little better focused. So one thing that really will help you with this is, and I'm not doing a shameless promo, I don't get paid or reimbursed or anything, but if you haven't heard of this tool, so my friend Lisa and her husband John make these at Crafter Solutions. They make lots of stuff 3D printing wise. You know, they make the Tipsy, but this is called the Boss, and it holds your embossing tool. You can use it for anyone. It also fit, I had one that was a Doris, which is my backup one. So it fits pretty much any embossing tool or heat tool. And what it does is it allows you to be able to turn it on, and it can just sit. Now, obviously you don't want to aim it at something that's going to get hot, but it can just sit, and this heating up will really dramatically reduce the warping of your layers of cardstock. So that is a really great investment. You can get it in many, many different colors. You can get it personalized, even if you're a demonstrator and you want to make sure that nobody walks off with your really cool tool. So what I'm going to do is I have some pieces of very vanilla. So I'm just going to cut these down. I believe they are already, so this is 5. So we'll do one at 3 3/4. So this is 3 3/4 by 5. Let's see what this one is. Oh, they're both 5. Huh. I must have really trimmed these down. So there's that. So this is going to be the 5, right? Yeah. So I'm just going to do both of these at 3 3/4. It's not too big of a deal. Now, the cool part about this, just thinking outside the box, I'm just going to save this piece in case I need something for a sentiment, is the other thing you could do with this as well, and this should be 5, yep, is you could even put another layer behind it of gold foil, or really anything else you wanted to do would look really nice. You could do a piece of DSP. So we have our layers here. So this is kind of what we're going to start with for our project today. So we are going to begin by embossing. And let me move this over. Oh, it's Canadian Thanksgiving. Well, happy Thanksgiving to my Canadian friends. I didn't even realize that. Thanks for saying that, Pamela. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. So I want to tell you one other thing about these 3D folders just before we begin. So this is the perfect example of how we're doing this because it's a little bit tricky sometimes. So if you remember, Stampin' Up! Parted ways with Sizzix. So if you have a Stampin' Up! Sizzix embossing folder, the sandwich is going to be a little bit different. Now, if you have just a Stampin' Up!, so it doesn't have anything else on it but Stampin' Up! Folder, that is when you're going to need, and I'm fairly certain I'm saying this correctly, that's when you're going to need the blue folder. And I'm just going to give this a crank just to be sure. So if for some reason you don't have the blue folder, or the blue plate, I should say, not the blue folder. I keep calling it the blue plate special. So you need the blue plate, which we unfortunately no longer carry, but I'm sure you can probably get this somewhere at a big box store. That is what you need for this folder to work more simply with your regular platform. Now, if you have the one that still says Sizzix on it, what you need to do is, and you certainly can use your magnetic platform, but I try to only use that with my dies. So if you have that, what you're going to do is you're going to need your Big Shot platform, and I think you just need one plate. Let me just run this through just to double check, because this is sometimes the point where it gets confusing. Yeah, you just need one. So if you have any of the 3D folders, so you can see how thick this is, and it still says Sizzix on it, you're going to use your regular base plate and one cutting plate. Okay, it's not really cutting, but just to get the pressure for it. And it can be a yucky one. It doesn't have to be nice because it's not going to go through to your paper anyway. But so if you have the ones that only say Stampin' Up, you're going to need this. However, if you have the new machine, I think there's different rules, and I don't have that one, so I can't really explain that part to you. But I just wanted to make that clear. So one other thing to tell you, when you have these types of 3D folders, one extra thing you can do is you can spritz your cardstock. Now what that does is it just makes your impressions onto your paper much thicker than they would be otherwise, okay? So you can either spritz them with water, you can spritz them with a little bit of alcohol and shimmer paint. It'll kind of give you a nicer finish. So since I have that handy, I'm just going to do one, and this is champagne, so you're not going to really see it too much, but I'm going to do one so you can see it. And this is going to be, so I'm going to do this one backwards because I want this to stick up. I think I'm doing that correctly. So if you want the debossed image, you're going to have it with the label up. If you want it the other way, you want the label down. So I'm just going to spritz this. And if you get any on your folder, it's no big deal, really. You'll just wipe it off, rinse it off in the sink, whatever. So I'm going to run this one through. I'm going to try my best to kind of line that up so it's even. All right, so this is the one that doesn't have the Sizzix label. So I'm going to put this through with the blue plate. And the only thing, since I'm spraying this, nope, that's wrong. Hold on. That is the blue plate? Yeah. Nope, that is not. Hold on a sec, because that's where, see, I went wrong. I already went wrong. You know why? Because I have the magnetic, and that doesn't work with that. Blue, regular, and magnetic. The magnetic plate is a little bit thicker. So that's why you need to use your regular base plate. And if you have the old one that had the multiple flaps, you're going to just have it open so all the flaps are on the side and you just have your flat base. So it gives you a super deep impression. And look, I ended up doing it backwards anyway. So you can really, really see, and I don't know if that, it looks like it's coming through. You can really, really see the deep ridges in that. Okay, so I wanted it the other way though. So I'm going to set this one on the side. I'm sure I'll use it for something different, but I'm going to just try this one more time. And I try to say this, and I hope you all appreciate just what I'm saying is I try to do these things the wrong way. So that way when you do it, you don't do it the wrong way, you do it the correct way. So I'm going to put this again through one more time. I'm just going to spritz this again because I want this to be a little bit deeper. But the only thing, as I was saying, is you need to make sure you allow this time to dry. Oh, you know why? It's because this has color in it. I think this has a little bit of green in there. That's why it's turning green. You want to let this have time to dry once we're finished before we emboss. That way your embossing powder doesn't stick to the wrong spots. Okay, so I'm going to put that one through, and then we'll do one with the pine wood planks, and that one I'm just going to do regular. So again, it has a really, really deep impression. You can really see it much more on the opposite side. It's really, really deep, but it's a really nice folder, and you don't have to wet it. So this isn't something that's required, but it does give you a little bit deeper of an etch if you wet it. So let me put these on the side, and then we'll do one with the pine wood. And let's see, which way do we want this to run? I'm going to go this way. So I'm just going to find like a piece here that I kind of want lined up, and then fold it like that. And then this one is going to go through with just one cutting plate. Okay, so, and there you have that one. So it has a really nice impression, but if I would have sprayed this, it would be even deeper. So again, you can spray it with water. I just happen to have alcohol in my spritzers because I usually mix it with shimmer paint, but it really does, it deepens it a lot if it's wet. Okay, so we're going to put these plates all over here on the side. So I don't have any craftastrophes while we're doing this. I have this extra. Okay, so pine wood, and then these are the, and I did them two different directions, so that kind of worked out well. These are the brick and mortar, and I just want to make sure I wipe all this off, just so nothing's wet. So I'm going to do this one first, so this has some time to just dry. Just going to set these over here. All right, and in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn on my heat tool. So I do have my microphone on, so you should be able to hear. So I'm going to turn this over here. Hopefully it's a little bit quieter. And now we're going to add some embossing powder to this. So first what we're going to do is we're just going to take our embossing buddy and just rub it all over. And this just kind of cuts down on the static of the powder sticking maybe where you don't really want it to. So for us, mostly on this, it's going to stick up on these ribs, because they are the highest raised point. So you can see on the back everything's pretty much even, and then you have the indents, so you want the more raised portion. So we're just going to rub that over, and I have my coffee filter here and my powder, and then I'm going to take my Versamark ink pad and just want scrap, and I'm not pressing really hard because I just want to pick up the edges. I'm just gonna lightly press, and I'm gonna try my best not to touch it, because sometimes if you end up with a fingerprint, you'll have a fingerprint on your card. All right. Then I'm going to just pick this up and sprinkle this on. And you probably could be a little, you could even be a little light-handed and only do it in like certain areas. So just have like like a gold part over here and a little over there. So it just depends on what you want to do. And I'm going to just go one time. I want to give this a good flick. All right, so I'm going to set this over here. I did have a little fallout. And just so this doesn't heat everywhere, I'm going to wipe this off. Okay, so I'm going to grab my embossing tool, and I'm going to grab my reverse tweezers just so I kind of have something to hold it with. And I'm just going to move it around and heat it just to set. So it will go from dull to shiny when it's set. And you could even, if you wanted to, and you can see, let me just show you here. So you can see over here, the part that is still dusty, and then the part that is shiny is set. So that's the difference between the two. And you can hold this down. You don't necessarily have to hold it up. So you could also go like this and just kind of press it with your tweezers. Heating my mat underneath, so I'm trying not to stay too hard pressed to that mat below. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Just watch these are going to be really hot, so you have a definite nice shine to it. I didn't go all the way to the edge on some parts of it, just to give it like a nice unique feel. So I think that looks really pretty, just as is. So now that this should be fairly dry, it's a little bit wet, I'm just going to dry this just a teeny bit. Okay, now the nice part about this, excuse me, is that it also already has the shimmer, which I'm not sure if that is or isn't translating on the video, but it has the shimmer from the shimmer spray that we hit it with. So this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of do what I explained I was going to do in this, where I'm only going to hit specific parts, okay? But I definitely want to still hit the whole thing with my embossing buddy. Okay, and then same thing again. Let me move this over. All right, so I'm just going to kind of hit this in patches, I guess is what I was trying to say earlier, in patches. So I'm just going to I can't really see where I've gone. You can see when you turn sideways, it is a little bit wet. So I'm just going to kind of stick with, hopefully, that I've done a nice pattern. So I'm going to move this out of the way again. And just sprinkle. Now some of these, you can see it's picking up darker. It got a little bit more into the crevices. So it kind of just depends on what folder you decide to use with it, how hard you press your ink pad. I don't think I got any at the top. Let me just make sure. No. Okay. All right, so there's one. And then we'll do the last one a little bit different, since I did that third one accidentally. And we can also add lots of other things to this as well. So we might not necessarily be finished with the embossing powder yet, but I'm just going to heat this. It still should be pretty hot, that just turning it on, it should melt fairly easily. Now you can see the difference here much more clearly between what is and isn't heated, okay? So the dusty is not heated and the shiny obviously is heated. So it looks pretty cool only because it gives you lots of different textures and you have lots of different feel with really, honestly, not too much effort because all we did was spritz this and run it through the embossing folder, and then we added the shimmer to it, or the embossing powder to it. So one other thing you could do as well, and I want to share this with you. Now, we don't carry this, and as a matter of fact, I don't know that we ever did carry this, or I just got this at like Michael's or something, but you can also purchase, and I will make sure that when I put the blog post up, if I can find a link on Amazon, I will link to my store. But the Versa marker is a Versamark pen, but obviously in marker form. So the other thing you could do with this one, and I want to just do this real quick before I just get my embossing buddy. Okay. So what you could do is, if you wanted to be you were really trying to be really specific in your detail. So it has a brush tip, and then it has more of a writing tip. So what you could do is, and this does stay pretty wet. So if you don't have this pen, the other thing you could do is you could do a little bit with your a blender pen that you kind of dedicated to Versamarking. And you could dip it in the refill, or you could dip it directly into the pad. So I have that. Now I'm going to do one extra thing, and I'm just going to take this and go around the edge. It should still stay wet long enough, hopefully. I have had this pen for I think I've had this as long as I've been a crafter, so like 15 years. And it's still, the nice part about Versamark is it does stay pretty wet. Okay. All right, I think that looks pretty good. So then I'm going to do the same thing. Now remember, you're going to have edges on this, so hopefully. Hopefully the edges picked up. Let's put it that way. Turn it around. And you don't want it to be heavy on the edges, so it doesn't look too overwhelming. If you are noticing that, it's just pretty light on the edges, and that's really what we want. Okay, let me just put this all back. So remember, the other thing we have now, which is really, really pretty, is that brushed foil. That is in the holiday catalog. I am really, really, really hoping somehow that makes a miraculous carryover. I don't know. They don't tell us a lot of that stuff until right before it's going to happen. So I'm just picking up a spot that doesn't have too much embossing on the edge. But it's so pretty. I hope it carries over. So I'm just going to heat these to set them. Okay, I think it looks pretty good. Now these will, and this one more so because it got heated in a wonky way, they will have a little bit of an arch to them. So what you can also do, I'm going to wipe this off before I get my fingers sticky or burned, is you can run this back through your embossing machine just between a piece of printer paper, and it'll kind of help to reflatten it back out. So if you're worried about that, this one's pretty good just because it wasn't heated. That's one thing when you do the spritzing and then you do the heating, sometimes you'll get that little bit of a weird effect with the curling, but it does flatten out pretty easily. The other thing you can do too is you could just set something on top of it before you use it. But quite honestly, as long as you use a good amount of adhesive, once you press it down, it'll stay down pretty well. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do this card first, because this is the one I said we were going to do first. I just want to wipe this off because I do have some embossing powder and some embossing buddy dust on here. Okay, so we're going to do this one. And this one could be really simple. So I just literally got this the other day. I haven't used it whatsoever yet. So just in case you've never done one of these before, I'll show you one as we go. And I think I'm going to do the ginkgo. So what you do, if you haven't mounted these, or this is your first time, you pull the sticker off of the back, and then you pull your release paper off of your sticker label. I should have said you pull the sticker off of the back of the stamp. Just like so. And I usually do it like this just because it's easier to line up. So I will just set this right in to place. Give it a good press. And then I'm going to peel it up, and then I'm going to stick it to my clothes. Which I know sounds a little crazy, but these are really sticky. So you kind of almost have to take some of the sticky off of the back of them. Otherwise, when you put them back in your case, they can be really, really hard. So I kind of will tend to stick them to my shirt or to my hand. And they still stick really, really well. So you don't have to worry about that. And then the other thing is too, if you haven't seen these before, and I'll pull out one that's already been used, I save all these extra pieces. And then what I'll do is I'll retro mount my other clear mount stamps. I'll just put a little strip in them. I did that instead of purchasing, and I should say I started doing that before they offered what they were offering in the catalog with the little strip. So I just use my extra pieces because I gotta have them, so why not? So how about we do older and wiser? So let me just mount this one while we're at it. Make sure I have it in the correct orientation so the words are lined up. Okay, lift it up, and then I'll just put this one on my hand. And it still really sticks, so don't worry about whether it will or won't stick. Okay, so we have that and my ginkgo. So let me pick this up, and I think we're going to cut this out, and then we'll just do the older and wiser. We'll die cut that with something. So for this, we have a lot of gold. I'm going to try doing this on to soft suede. I thought it would be really nice, but we'll stick with the same kind of tone. So I'm going to do the ginkgo in soft suede on vanilla, just trim it out, and then we'll stamp our sentiment, and we will die cut that with something. Let me make sure, since I haven't used this before, I want to make sure that stamps nicely. Yeah, that looks good. Oops, look, now it's gonna make me look like a fibber. I put too much sleeve on them. If you do have trouble with getting them to line up correctly, I do have a video on my YouTube page that I noticed that Debbie said that. I have a video on my YouTube page that I did that makes it pretty simple. So there are a couple different instructional videos on how to do that. I know another stamper just shared a different way to do it, and I'll show you what she shared. All right, so I just want to make sure that's stamped nicely since it was the first stamp. We'll just put this over so we can cut that out with a little bit of something. But so while we're here, let me show you this, because this might be useful to some people. I'm going to set this on the side, just let that dry for a minute. So what she actually did, and she did it a different way, is she picked up her sticker. So I'm going to do this with a sentiment one, just in case I mess it up. So she picked up her sticker and she put it on her block. The only thing that worries me about doing it this way is that potentially you're going to have trouble getting your sticker off your block. Okay. So then what she did is she put her stamp face down like that. So you do have to make sure you have the correct stamp. And then she, oops, right direction would help. She lined it up just like that to pick up her stamp. So while in theory, it is a really good idea, what worries me is that you're going to have trouble maybe getting it off. Oh, but that actually came off pretty easily. These, I'm going to tell you, these don't seem to be quite as sticky as my other ones, which is fine because the other ones were so overly sticky that they wouldn't stick. So that actually was pretty simple. Let's try that one more time. That was actually, now that I've tried it, because before I thought, I don't know if that is going to work or not. So I'm just picked up the sticker and the release paper. And you probably could pull this off beforehand if you wanted to. So you put your release paper down, and then you just kind of line up your stamp with your sticker. Make sure you give it a good press. That is pretty genius. So maybe, Debbie, you could try that. Yeah, so Cheryl, maybe you saw that same girl. It was just recently shared on, I think she shared it on the Demonstrator Planning Place, which is just basically a nice group that we have for demonstrators to share ideas and stuff. If you are a demonstrator, I highly recommend it because there's lots of cool stuff on there. So, pretty cool idea. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut out the ginkgo, and then we're going to cut this out with a die. So I'm just going to trim this. Again, I know a lot of people don't really dig fussy cutting, but I don't really mind it. If you have some sort of a scan and cut, you could do that as well. But I don't think, aside from that little tiny stem, this probably isn't really a very hard thing to fussy cut. So I did give it a minute because I wanted to make sure that it was dry. Now that I shared that video, I kind of wish I would have paid attention to whose name it was, because I feel like I need to give her credit because that was a really good idea. I'm gonna have to go back and look, and then I'll put it in the notes when I load this over to YouTube. So if you are watching this after the fact on YouTube, and I know we're still live on Facebook at this point, but if you are, check the description for the video, and I'm gonna try to locate her name. So there is our little ginkgo. So we can add a little something to that. We're going to need to add something to kind of distinguish the two things anyway. So I'm going to do this with, just since we have a lot of lines, I'm going to do this with a circle die. Let's see if this one fits the stitch circle. That fits pretty well. And then we'll do another layer with the suede. So we'll kind of do suede. I'm going to see, I might put a little piece of brushed gold behind this. So I'm going to cut this out, and I'm going to cut out a layer of suede to go behind it. Ultimately, we're going to need, we have that for that one. Going to need a piece for our card base. So I'm going to put this and this both through. I'm going to put a little piece of tape on this just so it lines up properly. Anybody see whose name it was? I'm just looking back to see. Yeah, it was a really good idea. So I'm gonna have to go back and find her name so I can tell you guys who it was. All right, so we're gonna put our larger. So this is the second largest stitched circle and the third largest stitched circle, and these are from the layering stitched shapes. Not layering, they're from stitch shapes. They're not called layering. All right, so we have both of those. Slide those over here. All right, so we have this, and lastly we need to score that, and I'm going to cut a piece of the brushed foil. Let's see what we have here. I feel like that's kind of gold. Hopefully I picked the gold one. So I'm going to trim this down. I wonder if this is going to cover, if I could use this little scrappy piece here. Oh, look at that. It's going to work out perfectly. So I'm going to do that. So this was 3 3/4 by 5. So I'm going to make this one 4 by 5 1/4. I'm going to cut over here so there's no chance of me botching it up. So I'm going to just layer this piece. So we already cut something out of that, hopefully. What is this? This might be, you know what? Sometimes when you run it through the embossing folder, it kind of makes it a little bit shy. So I'm actually going to take a teeny bit more off of this. I'm going to make this 5 1/8. See how that works. That's pretty good. That looks good. And let me score this at 4 1/4. 4 1/4, and then I'll cut this at 5. Okay, so we're going to put this one together, and then we will move on to our other card after this. That one will do more of a holiday theme. Okay, so I am going to use liquid glue. I'm going to use both actually on the top of the foil, and the reason being is sometimes you have a hard time with getting things to stick to foil. So I'm actually going to put that on first. So I'm going to get my silicone mat, and still have a little bit of fast fuse here. See if I can get that to stick. Specifically kind of around the circle. We're going to go a little bit. Really want to make sure I get a little bit up here. All right, there's one. Got a little bit overage there because I was trying to be overly cautious, but just going to wipe these off. You want to try to be careful about your glue placement, unlike me when you do foil, because sometimes it leaves a little smudge. Because this is brushed, you really don't notice it quite as much, but you can, so kind of be careful with that. I'm going to bring out, just trying to use the rest of my fast fuse here. Yeah, see, so it doesn't stick to the back quite as well. So I'm going to go back to my liquid glue. It's like I know it doesn't stick to one side, but I couldn't quite remember which one. Okay. And I just want to make sure this is opening correctly. So we have our card like so. Put this layer on. Nice part about the liquid glue is if you do need to adjust it a little bit with the liquid glue, you can. Works really well for that. All right, then we have our stitched layer. We have our sentiment stitched layer, and then we have our little ginkgo. So we could even go so far as, if we wanted to take this pen and kind of trace the edge, which I think would look really cool. So now I'm going to do it really quickly. So sidebar here. Sometimes these are the ideas that end up looking the coolest. I'm going to turn my heat tool back on, and I'm going to use the smaller part of the pen. Okay, the only doozy with this is holding it, so I'm just going to sacrifice the tail here in this one spot. Missed a teeny bit over here. I'm going to try and patch it. One more. Okay, and if you don't feel like going to the lengths of heating the edges of this, you could add some ribbon to it if you wanted to do something a little bit different. Lots of different stuff you can do. Just clean this up really quickly. to put these with some dimensionals. And I'm going to kind of off-center it just a little bit, so we can put this on here as well. And then I'm going to put dimensionals on all of this together. So put here. Okay. Just a smidge. Okay. All right, so there we go. Very pretty. I know that was a lot of work for one card because we took a lot of steps and we did some detours with the instruction of the stamp backs, but still pretty fun. The rainbow stamper, yes, he is in the background. He's in the background actually behind a door, and you can still hear him. That's kind of how he rolls, right? All right, so we're going to do this one last one, and we're going to put this together though, and I want to do this with something a little bit Christmassy. So I'm going to use the Merry Merlot. That makes me laugh that you're still hearing him in the background. I'm sure he would appreciate that. I'm trying not to say it too loud or he may end up in here. And I think I'm going to do this one though with the moose, because I think that would be really neat. So here's what I'm going to do with the moose. I'm going to do the moose, and I'm going to do the moose in an unusual color. So I'm going to do him in Merry Merlot, which I know might be a little odd, but we're going to try it anyway. So let me grab that, because I want it to just have a little bit of a different look to it. Okay. All right, so it's pretty dark, so it works really, really nicely, I think. So I'm going to punch him out. And even though he is going to have a little bit of a vanilla border, I think it's still going to be just fine. Looks pretty good. Okay, so we have him. And then, move this over. I want to have something different. So I think I'm still going to add potentially a brushed gold circle to this. So let me grab my Merry Merlot. I think I have a piece of this. Might already be cut. Yeah. There's that. Let me see what this measures, because it almost looks like it's a little... Huh. I thought my dimensionals ended up in the trash, but apparently they did not. So this is 5. This is 8.5 by 5. So you know what? This is going to be a little bit different, because I'm just going to trim this up with what we have. So I'm going to do 4 1/4. And this one's going to just get cut down just a teeny bit. So this measures, let me make sure I'm correct, 4 1/4 by 5. So I'm going to trim this down while I have it handy. Trim down the top. So we're going to go to 4 3/4. Looks pretty good, just like so. So we're going to put that we're going to have this, and I want to do, I want to do a bigger one. I'm going to do a layer of that gold, brushed gold foil, but I'm going to do it in the stitched. So again, I'm at the second largest stitched circle shape. And then we had that other vanilla piece, which we left over. This is a pretty wide piece. We can add a nice sentiment to this. And then I think we're going to add some, obviously you're going to need a panel for the inside of this one. But then we're going to add some ribbon of some sort. And I'm going to have to look and see which one I like best. So we have this piece here. So I am going to make sure I do two things. I'm going to put fast fuse and I'm going to put, liquid glue. So I would use a heavy adhesive. You could use the Stampin' Seal Plus if you have that. You could use tear and tape. All right, so I'm going to put this on here. I don't know, guys, I got to tell you, I'm a little concerned. I think I hear plunging of a toilet in the background. I don't want to say it too loud, but it's not sounding too good back there. So I'm going to put two of these. All right, before I do this, I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to pull out my silicone mat. I'm going to put this down. And I think I'm going to pop him up. Might have been the right time to make a video today. Him missing the toilet plunging. Oh no is right. That's all right. It's being handled. Not by me. All is well. All right. So we're going to put the moose here. And so what I want to do, and I know this kind of looks a little askewed because of the way it is, but it's okay. I'm going to pick this up and kind of see where I want. So like that. And then I want to add a sentiment. And how about, since we have the brick, I think I want to have a cozy Christmas. Yeah, because this one's really cute. And I'm going to do this in Mary Merlot as well. Should put this up top. I do better when I have them at the top. Okay. And that I'm going to end up snipping off. I'm just not 100% sure how yet. And then what if we add, and I don't know if this is going to be too much, but we're going to give it a try, a little teeny piece of this. So I'm just going to cut off a piece. And yep, just like that. That's what we're going to do. We're going to trim this. I think I'm going to trim this a little bit closer. And then I'm going to put some glue dots on the back. And I'm also going to put one onto my ribbon. So I'm going to put one onto my ribbon to kind of hold it closed. Oops, missed that one. And like so. Kind of do it any way you want. And I might need to have trimmed this a little bit more. No, you know what? Maybe we'll go like this. I have a little piece upper, a little piece lower. I think I need one more glue dot right here. There, and then we'll put 3 on the back. Oops, just that way we can kind of assure ourselves that it's going to stay where we put it. Put one more. Okay, so final piece. We just move this over, put this together. Just like that, I think looks cute. Kind of sometimes have to fool around with your sentiment, which is why I also like having the silicone mat, because it gives you a way to be able to take it off, kind of set it there, move it, put it on the side, have it all ready to go. So I hope you guys enjoyed these cards today. Thank you so much for joining me. So this is pretty fun. So again, we embossed these with the embossing folder. Then we added some gold heat embossing accents to it. This one is definitely an unusual side card because remember I had a weird piece of paper left, and this probably needs a teeny bit of glue here. So I might have to glue that after the fact. But other thing is, if you don't like your pieces with this little waviness, you can also add I should say, you can also run this through your embossing machine just between a piece of printer paper folded in half, and it'll kind of help to straighten it out. I hope you guys enjoyed this video today. I sure enjoyed crafting with you all. Thank you so much again for joining me today. This will get posted to Facebook, so if you missed something in the beginning, it will replay probably about 10 minutes after we finish. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you should be able to see the whole video in its entirety once it is posted. If you have any questions about what we did today, or comments or suggestions, you can send me an email at rachthestamper@gmail.com. I do get a lot less comments on YouTube, so come to YouTube, subscribe, bring a friend, and make sure you turn on the icon, the little bell icon, because it will notify you every time I go live. I will see you guys again next Thursday around 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then once again next Saturday around probably 9:30 a.m. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I'll see you again real soon.